So in my view, rape has become decriminalised.
Rape has always been a difficult crime to prove in court, but the criminal justice system has now reached a level of crisis.
We're probably seeing the lowest volume of convictions against the highest levels of reports that we ever have.
In the year ending March 2020, 99% of rapes reported to police in England and Wales resulted in no legal proceedings against alleged attackers.
I was absolutely certain that that was a true account of rape, but there's been an acquittal.
Literally the first thing I said to her mum was that I want to die. I didn't want to live anymore.
With convictions at the lowest levels on record, we face an uncomfortable question. Has rape become the perfect crime?
I wouldn't recommend that someone report their rape case. My name is Bonny Turner and I'm here today because I was raped. He and I had known each other for 2.5 years and we had started a consensual sexual relationship with each other. I was staying with him and at some point during the night I became aware that he was on top of me and he was trying to penetrate me and he couldn't because I was completely dry. And I remember hearing him spit on his hand. He then started to rape me. I wanted to move, I wanted to scream, I wasn't able to do anything and I was completely frozen. I actually thought I was having a nightmare. I kept on thinking to myself, move, use your voice, move, scream. Now eventually I could, and I was able to shove his body off me with I used both hands and shoved his shoulders, and I managed to shout, stop.
My name's Sam Thompson and I'm a survivor of male rape. I recently moved to Manchester with my girlfriend at the time. She landed her dream job and I was pursuing my dream of becoming a professional DJ. And we decided to go on a night out. We went for a few drinks just in pubs and stuff. And then, like many of us do, I was chatting to a group of strangers, just discussing anything. I can't remember the conversation, but I remember thinking they were all right people. The group kind of fizzled down. I guess people had to go home. It would have been the early hours of the morning at this point. It left me with just two people. They offered if I wanted one more drink. I thought, there's no harm, it's already ridiculously late. It was after I'd had that drink that everything became really hazy. I couldn't work out whether I had been spiked, whether I was just extremely drunk. I remember them removing my clothes. I remember not doing anything about it. I was just froze. And then I just remember them taking it in turns to rape me for a number of hours. I don't really remember how it finished. I don't remember masses of the experience. I don't even remember whether I fell asleep or just came round and left. It started to hit me, like the shock kind of came over me all at once as I was walking back to my flat. And it was just before I got back to my flat, sort of over a bridge near where I lived, that I then sort of had the feeling that I couldn't live with this, didn't know what to do, and that I wanted to end my life there and then.
In the wake of Jimmy Savile revelations and the Me Too movement, the number of rapes reported to police in England and Wales has tripled since 2012. But victims' bravery is not being rewarded. In the last 3 years, the number of rapes prosecuted and convicted has collapsed.
I did continue to see him for 3 more nights. He was in London, and on the 3rd night, in the middle of the night, I woke up sobbing, my heart pounding, sweating profusely. He left London and I thought I'll never see him again. He had continually tried to contact me on Facebook Messenger and I had ignored all of the messages until 2 weeks later, and I just said, look, I don't want to talk to you. It's one thing to gently wake your lover up in the middle of the night, and if they respond positively, to then take things from there. It's another thing to forcibly penetrate someone when they're fast asleep, as you did with me. And much to my surprise, he responded saying, "I know, I'm so sorry, I made a huge mistake. I should never have tried from the beginning. I realized too late that you were asleep." When I got that message, I thought, if I don't report this to the police, it will just eat me up forever. I thought, this is evidence.
We went to the police station. I was then asked to go and sit in a room. I was told that I couldn't stay with my girlfriend at the time or my friend. When they took my story, again, I didn't feel like I was believed. They were asking questions that I seemed to be ridiculous, asking me if I'd ever had a male sexual encounter, asking me my sexuality, asking me if I've ever cheated on my girlfriend, all things which are completely irrelevant to what the thing that was that I was reporting. And I was still in the clothes, I still hadn't had a shower, I could still smell these two strangers on me, but they asked me not to shower or to have a bath so that they could get as much forensic evidence as possible. You feel dirty as it is, but being able to smell other people on you, it just added to the pain.
It's undeniable, percentages aside, from report to conviction, we're probably seeing the lowest volume of convictions against the highest levels of reports that we ever have. It's something that police chief constables up and down the country worry about. Perpetrators not being convicted potentially means the public generally less safe, and because it means that future victims won't come forward.
In the year ending March 2020, over 55,000 rapes were reported to police, but fewer than 1,500 people were convicted. This is the lowest number of rape convictions on record. And the problem may be even worse. Rape is an extremely underreported crime. The latest figures from the ONS estimate there are up to 107,000 victims of rape every year in England and Wales. 9 out of 10 are women.
Rape is a serial offence, so we've convicted 1,000 fewer each year. That suggests that there are people who shouldn't be free, who are free. People who are rapists will carry on raping until they're stopped, and they don't think they're going to be stopped at the moment.
I've experienced prosecuting cases where I was absolutely certain that that was a true account of rape, but there's been an acquittal. Where there is a rape reported, and particularly a rape against the background of a previous consensual sexual relationship, people are asking the question, has that been made up? Whereas in fact, there is no evidence to support the contention that rapes are more likely to be made-up crimes as opposed to any other offence.
It was January 2018 that the CPS made their decision to not prosecute the man who raped me. They said it was because of lack of evidence, and I was devastated. If my case isn't prosecuted, what chance does, the vast majority of cases don't have evidence like that.
We asked the Crown Prosecution Service why they did not proceed with Bonny's case. In response, they said, "We concluded there was no realistic prospect of conviction." Miss Turner then applied for a judicial review where the High Court held that the decision was properly reasoned on the evidence.
Probably 2.5 months after the actual event itself, I had a phone call completely out of the blue to say that they were taking no further action. I was completely devastated. I just didn't understand. I'd had suspicions that I wasn't believed throughout all this, and the police were just following a procedure. I'd put myself through something, again, that was quite traumatic, all with the idea that I was going to at least, be able to have my day in court and gain a prosecution for what had happened. But that was just taken away from me.
The Greater Manchester Police told Sky News, in line with normal procedure, Mr. Thompson's case was referred to the GMP's Serious Sexual Offences Unit, but failed to meet the evidential test.
So in my view, rape has become decriminalised. I don't think that's an exaggeration. If someone wants justice in their individual sort of case, I wouldn't recommend that someone report their rape case. And I don't want to have to be in a position to say that.
In 2019, the CPS conducted their own inspection into falling rape convictions and found a criminal justice system under-resourced close to breaking point was to blame.
Because of austerity, there are fewer detectives dealing with bigger caseloads. Some of those caseloads in this are more complex and they have all that material attached to them. So investigations are taking a lot longer. So resources are an issue, but they're not just an issue for policing. Austerity has seen fewer prosecutors who are also dealing with bigger caseloads. We're also seeing increased numbers of victims reporting. So the demand is increasing at the same time the resources are becoming more stretched.
A government spokesperson told Sky News, "We are conducting a full review of the criminal justice system's response, recruiting 20,000 more police and giving 85 million to the Crown Prosecution Service." But a coalition of women's rights groups say an intentional change in rape prosecution policy is to blame for the fall in convictions. The End Violence Against Women Coalition believes the Crown Prosecution Service secretly changed their policy in 2017, effectively raising the bar for prosecution by weeding out weaker cases and only prosecuting rock-solid cases which were likely to win. In July 2020, the Court of Appeal overturned a High Court ruling and granted a full judicial review against CPS rape charging policy, which will take place early next year.
She's part of a long-term drop, frankly, is the only word, in rape prosecutions by the CPS, who changed their policy about how to prosecute cases in 16-17. But if you only take a few cases, then you don't convict a lot of people. And that's what's happened. It is a clear policy by the CPS, which frankly needs to be reversed, and it needs to be reversed today.
A CPS spokesperson told Sky News, "There has been no change of approach in CPS prosecutions of rape. In every case referred to us, we will prosecute whenever our legal test is met, no matter how challenging it is." The Court of Appeal last month decided that other procedural aspects of the End Violence Against Women's claim should be the subject of a full hearing, which will be argued in due course.
It's a very disturbing case that the jury here at the Old Bailey are having to sit through.
If a rape victim's case makes it as far as the courtroom, they often feel they themselves are on trial.
She was in tears at one point when the defence was suggesting that actually this wasn't rape, that this was consensual sex.
Because society as a whole still believes rape myths, our juries do too.
Consistency had never been a feature of the complainant's evidence long before she entered the witness box.
Defence teams will often make use of these myths to discredit victims and cast doubt in a jury's mind.
It might seem embarrassing to show a pair of thongs here in this incongruous setting of the doll.
Deputy.
How do you think a rape victim or a woman feels at
respond.
the incongruous setting of her underwear being shown in a court?
When you are asking a jury to be sure of guilt, it has to be said that it doesn't take very much, therefore, in order to knock the credibility of the complainant. A juror feeling almost certain, or that that man in the dock has probably done it, is not enough. Thinking about perhaps some of the central themes that have been used by the defence in the trial, they have been based on no screaming, no shouting, could have protected herself. There were other people in the house. Would she really have not, would she really have spent the night after she'd been raped in that bedroom? Why didn't she go running out of the house at the time? She must not be telling the truth. They expected that they would scream and they would claw and they would fight back with everything they had. But their survival mechanism in their brain made them submit so that they would walk out of that incident, yes, raped and psychologically scarred, but alive.
For many victims, there is a huge mental cost in reporting rape to a criminal justice system that feels stacked against them.
4 or 5 months after the event itself, I'd effectively worked myself into the ground. I'd walked into the office, I'd sat down at my desk, I was there before everybody else, and I just burst out in tears. I couldn't work out why, I couldn't cope, I didn't understand where this feeling had come from. So I went out to my car before everyone else arrived and I hid in the car park effectively. I phoned my mum. I phoned her because I didn't know who else to speak to. And I literally, the first thing I said to her, Mum, was that I want to die. I didn't want to live anymore. I didn't understand what life was anymore. And that was a very horrible conversation for me and her, I think. And it was during that conversation that she made me promise that I would at least try having therapy.
It's an incredibly long and lonely road. It's really, really hard. Really hard. You know, many times I have felt suicidal many times. I wanted to die, and you know, I think my main reason for wanting to waive anonymity is because I feel so strongly I have nothing to be ashamed about, and the burden of keeping it a secret was just killing me. I'm a smart, capable person with so much to give, and yet I've been unable to work because I've been unable to go back to full-time work because of this. It's a waste of my energy and talent. It's a waste of my potential. And I'm just one person.